My name's Caitlin Quinn, and I'm the Director of Operations for HeartSpeak. So something that occurred to us over the last 12 months or so since the pandemic started was that we were having a lot of really interesting conversations with other people who work in marketing communications across animal welfare in all different kinds of roles, but that we wished that there was a way to bring some of those conversations public and to really be able to enjoy that collaborative conversational way of learning, even while we all have to be separate. So that kind of spawned this idea for a new series that we're doing where we hope to interview on an at least monthly basis some folks in animal welfare marketing that we think that you should hear from and learn from. And these will be 30-minute lunch breakable kind of portions of information that you can put on in the background, you can enjoy while you're working, but that we really hope will kind of feed that need for connection and learning and hopefully provide a lot of inspiration, because I know that that's what I get from a lot of these really amazing folks who are working so hard and finding ways to succeed in all different kinds of circumstances. So please enjoy our first installment and drop some questions in the comments or email me at caitlin@heartspeak.org if you have anybody you want to hear from in the future, if you want to be part of this, or if you have questions that you want us to pass along. Thanks so much. So thanks again, you guys, for being able to do this. So my first question is just, I think for anybody who, I think so many people are familiar with KC Pet Project at this point, but for anybody who's not, could you guys just kind of give us a brief background on KC Pet Project and what you guys have done in your community?
Sure. So KC Pet Project is the organization that runs the shelter for the city of Kansas City, Missouri. So we care for around 10 to 11,000 pets a year, and we are an open admission shelter for the city of Kansas City, Missouri. And recently we also expanded our services to animal control services through our animal services division. And so we are now doing all of those duties alongside the sheltering staff. So we are growing dramatically and increasing our people support in the community and advancing those programs and things like that as well. So not only are we focused on animals, but also the people in the community and how we can make an impact there.
Awesome. What has that been like, kind of starting to habituate the community to, we didn't always have animal services, but now we do? Like, how has that messaging gone for you guys?
I think it's been a pretty good transition, and we've been working on this for years. So the community was well aware that we were working on animal control services, and I think that they thought that we've been running it for a little bit longer than we actually have. So we launched it in December. It was really good to have a big media blitz to sort of explain how it was all going to work and things like that. But the community definitely knows that we are doing those services because our call volume was 219% of an increase over what the city was seeing during the previous year.
Oh my gosh.
The word is out.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, from a marketing perspective though, we were really focused on telling the stories of our officers and the things that they're doing, and also, highlighting them working with our shelter staff. So having this one team, one mission sort of outlook on things, that we're all one team under the same roof doing this work together.
Nice. I love that. And it does seem like you guys have such a good relationship with your community. And one thing that I've been thinking about constantly for you guys in the last 2 weeks is Super Bowl, and how I know last year that was such a big push for you guys, and you have these kind of beautiful, wonderful partnerships with some of the players. So will you talk a little bit about what you're getting ready for this weekend? I know I feel so lucky to have a couple minutes of your time leading up to Super Bowl, because I know this is a big deal.
It is. Katie, jump in anytime you want.
Yeah, no worries.
So yeah, we've been chatting with Derek Notty's team to see, what's going to happen whenever the Super Bowl happens. So whether they win or lose, something will happen. And I can't say exactly what will happen, but it will be big. But last year, he sponsored all of the dog adoptions after the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. And it was like one of those things that we sort of hoped that we would be able to cut through the chatter of the Chiefs winning their first Super Bowl in like 40 years. And within like, what was it? It was like 2 hours, we had thousands of shares.
Yeah.
It was just crazy. So, and then the reach was just dramatic. I mean, anytime that Ellen is sharing information about it, you know, it's gone viral at that point. And Jennifer Aniston and Kristen Bell, and we were on ABC World News, and it was just like this huge explosion of media. And Katie and I just sort of like hung on for the ride, and just like our job was just responding to inquiries from media outlets all over the world and taking photos of the animals leaving, and it was just pretty wild. So
it was so funny because like with all these high profile people sharing it, like every like hour we would run to each other and say, hey, did you see this? Did you see me share this? Like it was it was like that for a while. It was really fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's like the best side of all of this, right? Is that you work really hard and you hope for something like that is going to happen at some point.
Yeah, and he sponsors a dog adoption after every Chiefs win. So they've won all but one game this year, and I think we have like two naughty dogs left, I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, we have
that
two
haven't been
that are
adopted
still
yet.
looking. Yep.
So.
Oh, I love that they're naughty dogs.
Yeah.
It provides a really clever hashtag with hashtag naughty dogs. So.
Right? That's awesome. So I think for some folks that participate in Heart Speak programs and things like that, that the idea of getting that kind of partnership feels like a little bit like a dream. And I'm wondering how that all happened for you guys. Like, did Derek Nadi approach you guys? What is it like for you to proactively sometimes go after those kinds of partnerships with either sports teams or, local celebrities even?
Yeah, for Derek, his team reached out. He reached out during his first rookie season with the Chiefs, and we couldn't really make anything happen that season. But then we were able to get it coordinated for last season, where he would sponsor a dog adoption after every Chiefs win. And with the heightened media attention that all of that got last year, I think we had like 3 baseball players reach out, and after like in the off season, and everybody sort of wants to do the same thing. But the big thing about working with athletes is trying to make each of their causes different. So we were like, well, you can't do the same thing that Derek's doing, but let's talk about other ways that you can get involved in, even like PSAs in your community, doing little videos to talk about the importance of spaying, neutering, or, education opportunities to talk about, like how great pit bulls are. So we have several players who have pit bulls at home, and they love to talk about how amazing their dogs are. And when they're using their voice for good in that way, that's a huge impact in the community. And so we've been fortunate over the years to have a lot of athlete support for a variety of things. But it was really reaching out to the teams directly just to see. And then they sort of like, they try to get all of their players involved in some local capacity. So really that's the way that you have to do it, is through a player. The teams have their sort of structured causes that they go through, and oftentimes you can get a long way by talking to the wives or girlfriends.
I love that. I've heard you say that before in presentations, and I was like, that's genius. Like, that is the way to do things.
Get to the wives' hearts. Yep.
I love it. So I'm also really interested in you guys working as a team. And I know, Tori, how long have you been with KC Pet Project now?
9 years next month.
Woohoo! So, congratulations.
Thank you.
And Katie, when did you join the team?
Yeah, I joined, May will be 2 years, which seems like it doesn't seem like 2 years.
Right. It flew by.
Shorter than that. But yeah, I do communications and mostly design work for the shelter. But yeah, I've been here since May of 2019.
That's incredible. I know sometimes when I say 2019, I'm like, that was last year. Nope, that wasn't last year anymore. So I'm really interested in what it's like for you guys to be able to work together. And I think, Tori, I'm sure you can speak to this from having not had a Katie for a while, and how your life has kind of changed your work life and your creativity. But I am of the opinion that I think like we get so much more done when we just have another creative mind, and especially someone who understands the ins and outs of marketing, right? Because sometimes you have folks who are very well intentioned on your team, but are like, you should get on Ellen, and it's not that easy, right? Like it takes a lot of other moving parts. So I'm really just kind of very open-ended question, but like, what is it like for you guys to be able to work together on so many of the campaigns and kind of efforts that you're working on?
I'll go first, if that's
yeah,
okay.
Go.
What I'll say is that this is the first job that I've had that I have really like dived deep into actual communications. Like I've done traditionally just design work. So it's great to be able to have both of us have different like skill sets and be able to learn from each other. And of course, like Tori's a creative mind as well. So like being able to bounce ideas off of her and brainstorm, like it's been fantastic. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Katie is like immensely talented in so many ways. And even that talent extends to like, I'll say, okay, this is what I think that we should do, this sort of graphic, and maybe put a dog here and maybe put a human here. And then there's like text underneath, and she's like, got it. And like, you know, it's like we speak the same language, but not at all. We, you know, but we understand each other.
Yeah.
So, but she has such an amazing eye for branding. And has really taken our brand, because when we moved to the new shelter, we had new colors, we had a new logo, and sort of this overall look. But also, like, we're in this huge multi-million-dollar facility that's this beautiful state-of-the-art shelter in Kansas City, and really having an eye on all of the branding and adding that professionalism level to everything that we do is just huge. And she's so great with taking the really creative stuff and like figuring out how to do like overlays on Instagram stories. And we'll get to TikTok in a minute, but like her talent for all of that is just so huge. And we work so good as a team. Like if I'm running around and I have 18 meetings for the day, she's like, I got social today. And she, you know, brings a whole new fresh feel to our marketing that we do every day. And so it's just, we go all the time, but yeah, it's amazing. She's amazing.
Yeah, and I have to say, like, it is so clear that you have a brand direction, you know, like that everything that you do ties back into your brand. And I think that my suspicion, and you guys can kind of confirm or deny, is that that's part of what helps keep your community so invested and so informed, is that with that, I think sometimes people overlook that communications is really a form of leadership, and like branding is a way that I think people visually recognize your organization, but also see you as very organized or tied together, and like an organization that they want to follow. So I imagine with the new building that brand really helped kind of carry the community along on the ride.
Yeah, I've always heard and I've always said that branding is so much more than just colors and a logo. It's a relationship, and you have to be, just like human relationships, you got to be consistent. So consistency is big for me and for branding. So yeah, I appreciate everything Tori said. I mean, she's been an amazing boss, and probably my most favorite boss I've ever had. She allows me to kind of just go with the flow, do what I want to do. And this has been like a dream job. It truly has. Yeah.
That's so great. I love hearing that. And I love what you just said about branding. I think that's like the most concise way I've ever heard that said, like in terms of a relationship and the consistency of that. That's really, really smart. So let's talk about TikTok, because I think that is a question that I hear a lot, like from shelters, is going, okay, we want to be on TikTok, but we're not sure what to do with TikTok. And the number one thing that I hear, and it often comes from people who aren't on TikTok, are kind of saying, well, don't bother with TikTok because it's not an audience that you're going to be able to get to take actual action. There's definitely this kind of misnomer that TikTok is all like 17-year-olds who are never going to interact with your shelter. So tell me about how you guys got on TikTok. And Katie, you have quickly become, like, definitely in my mind, like the go-to resource for all things TikTok. So I'd love to hear about how that got started.
So I don't know, like a year and a half ago, I started just a personal one. and first just had my dogs on it, and then started doing some shelter stuff with it. And I had a few videos go viral, and I showed it to Tori, and I was like, this is why we need to start one. So we did, and I pretty much run it. But it is a very awesome tool, and I know that a lot of people see it as being a teenager platform, but it is. But there are so many people like middle-aged and my age in the 30s, you know, that are on it and are very, very invested in it and love it. And it's funny to see adults on there like just ready to take over this platform. So so it's growing for everybody. And it's gotten several pets of ours adopted just through that. Like people have traveled from Arkansas and Nebraska to come adopt. Yeah, just seeing them on TikTok. Yeah,
that's really amazing. And I think it's really nice to be able to have that kind of case study that says like it's not just people who aren't necessarily in our community, it's people who are investing in our mission, even if they are a little bit outside of our area, like they are taking action. And I think have you guys found any ways to kind of like monetize in terms of fundraising or anything on TikTok yet?
Yeah, so the thing that I have found out that has worked with TikTok a lot is telling stories. So being able to tell stories and tie in a CTA at the end, and you on your bio, you can do a link as well to send it off to a donation. But I know that we've seen like donations from other states come in that we haven't seen before. So that is telling us that maybe something's working there. So we're still trying to figure it out. I mean, we're still very new to it, and it's still a very new platform for businesses and nonprofits. But it's looking promising.
Yeah. And I'm sure TikTok is paying attention, you know, to the number of nonprofits that are having success. And I look how long it took us to get a donate sticker in Instagram, right? Like I'm sure it's coming down the pike.
Absolutely. And you know, she's modest. She got 100,000 followers on our Casey Pet Project account in 12 weeks.
Oh my God.
Like it was insane how fast like the first week she put up a video and it was like 1 million views. You know, it was just like insane how fast it grew. And she is raising money on her platform and, you know, through Casey Pet Project. But from a brand strategy perspective, we're having to like have these conversations that we're like, okay, so how are we going to put TikTok into this? You know, it's like we're having all these new conversations, and thank goodness she knows what to do with it, because I'm just, you know, there to view them and watch them.
I love that though. I love that it is because I think that sometimes it is really easy, especially when you're an overwhelmed marketing team, to say no to stuff, right? Like it's really easy to go down that rabbit hole of like imagining how much more work it is, or imagining adding something else to your plate, because I think we all hit that wall sometimes where we're just like, I can't even really think about this right now. But I love kind of the bravery in saying like, you know what, we're going to try this. And there's really not any huge downside. Like it's all, marketing is all a little bit experimental, and hopefully you hit on things that you can repeat and make happen again. But I love the idea of saying we're not afraid to give this a shot. And I think that argument about teenagers being on TikTok, I think is kind of a misunderstanding about TikTok, but also I kind of look at it also as you know, like we're so invested in humane education, right? We want to help people when they're younger so that they grow up to be good advocates for animals or good owners for animals. And why not also use TikTok to influence people who may not be adopting today or tomorrow, but at some point in their lives, they're going to be ready to get a pet, or they're going to need help with the pet that they already own. And I think that it's a really smart way to be kind of front and center for those individuals. So I love that you guys are doing that. Oh, go ahead, Katie.
I was going to say, just speaking to that, because I think that's great, being able to speak to the younger audience. I've had many comments of young teens saying, you know, they want to do what I do whenever they get older. Like, you know, they want to be, you know, a volunteer and all of that. So it's definitely a great way to advocate.
Yeah. And that's such a good point too, is like the future of our workforce are those individuals as well, right? Like we're almost constantly hiring in animal sheltering. You know, there's a pretty high rate of turnover. And I think that's another great point about like these are folks that you never know how that's going to influence, you know, their lives and their decision making going forward. It's exciting to think about. I also wondered about, you know, for organizations who maybe are a little bit curious about TikTok, but they're not sure where to start. If you had just like 3 top tips, Katie, like for what to do to get started on TikTok, what do you think that those would be?
Yeah, so storytelling, like I said, is what has worked a lot for me. Another thing is, I know like with Instagram, we kind of shy away from using a lot of hashtags, but TikTok kind of thrives on that. So I usually use the exact same hashtags for every video. That helps TikTok know what audience to send it out to. So that would be the second tip. The third tip would be, honestly, what always works is pulling at the heartstrings, as we know in animal sheltering. So that's, I would say, yeah, pulling at the heartstrings, finding a really good story, whether it be, you know, a reunion of a pet owner or a really good adoption story.
That's awesome. Do you guys tend to use some of the content you make on TikTok? Do you ever use those videos kind of on different platforms or share them across other social media or in your newsletters or anything?
We have, but I think we've used it in a sense of saying, hey, we're on TikTok.
Nice.
So come join us over there.
Mhm.
Perfect. That's great. I try to encourage people who are like TikTok curious to also just look at it as like a video making platform for a little bit and just like explore what other people are doing. And I think that's the biggest way to get comfortable with something new. Because when TikTok first came out, I was totally like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, and I don't know, because my mind goes immediately to like, how are we going to use this in our work? And I was mystified at the beginning, but the more that you consume the content, I think the more that you can kind of see all those threads of connection to your own mission.
Yeah, and those transition well over to like Instagram stories or reels,
Yeah.
and Facebook, you know, stories and things like that. So those videos can easily be moved over to that platform as well, which is
Yeah.
great.
That's one of the beautiful things about TikTok, I think, is the ability to share. Like so many of the other platforms we use are really kind of like, let's keep the content here on this, you know, native platform, and it gets then you're constantly creating new content everywhere, which I think is part of what people get overwhelmed with. So I love that idea. So a couple more questions for you guys. When you are feeling kind of creatively stuck, what is your biggest source of inspiration, like either within animal welfare, like what other organizations do you follow along with, or what do you pay attention to, or outside of animal welfare when you kind of need that creative boost? Is there anything that you go to kind of get re-energized?
Um, uh, Speaking in a design sense, I have a couple of websites that I go to that I browse through, which I'm sure a lot of designers have heard of, like Behance is a really good one. Also Dribble is a really good one as well. These sites are like, you can go and see what other designers have been doing. They kind of present their work on there. So those are the biggest things, being able just to see what is trending at the moment and what other people are doing.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah, I always get more inspired from like I always wish I could say that I like look at different avenues and stuff like that, but I always like hear little snippets. Like this morning I heard a news story that, you know, it was like saying the disparity between people of color and white people that are getting vaccinated, and
Yeah.
I was like, what can we do here in Kansas City? So like trying to think of like strategies around like, you know, can our officers, you know, actually have pamphlets that we create that have information about where to get vaccines and things like that in the community. So like we're always trying to think of like other strategies of like what can we do from you know, to expand our role in animal services. And then that's where a lot of that inspiration can be kind of funneled into the creativity that from not only just a design perspective for KC Pet Project, but also like what all that we can do to make our community stronger.
Yeah, I love that kind of it's almost like solution driving from the problems that you hear about. And that actually leads me to another question that I had for you guys, because I was so excited that Casey Pet Project was a voting location during the election. And is that kind of how that came about, that just kind of seeing the need in the community? How were you guys able to make that happen?
We are located in a very old part of Kansas City, our shelter is, but there aren't a lot of resources around here. And so we have a beautiful brand new facility that has this education pavilion in it that we really wanted in our pre-COVID times to be able to host like community events and have the opportunity that people could come here and host their events and parties and things like that. Strategic planning sessions. We had even wedding receptions that were booked here for the year that all unfortunately had to be canceled. So we were like, how in this COVID world can we still have our facility open so that the community can utilize it? So one of our team members that we work with is very much into politics in Kansas City. And so she reached out and said, there are not a lot of polling locations in the 5th district where we're located, and we would be totally open to hosting and being a polling location for voting opportunities. And so we welcomed several hundred people through the campus that day. And again, it was a great opportunity. Katie created a great flyer that talked about our services and everything that people could come and utilize here at the campus. For a lot of people, they could just walk here to vote, which was really great. And so, yeah, we're constantly looking at how we can be more of a community resource and not just a place that you come and adopt a pet, and how we can help people in our community.
That's amazing. What was the community response like even that day? Were you hearing from people that like didn't even know you were there, or who were really surprised about being there?
They were like, even our CEO, she stood up at the door most of the day and greeted people when they were leaving, and they were just like, this place is amazing. And we have a coffee shop in our lobby, and we have retail, and we were like, yeah, come over, we have pet food and a leash for your dog, and does your dog need a tag? We can get you with a tag. And it was just another opportunity to reach a whole new audience that has probably never utilized Casey Pet Project's services or programs before. We talked to a lot of people about volunteer opportunities. I can't tell you how many Girl Scout troop inquiries we had after that, people wanting to bring their Girl Scouts out. So it was just a fantastic opportunity for us. And we really wanted to urge people to come out and vote and use their voice. And so we're going to be doing it hopefully for the April election as well.
That's so awesome. And I love that it's just kind of a non-traditional door to reaching people. Like, I think that we sometimes overlook that those in-person interactions are also a form of marketing and communication. It's experiential, but that you're reaching people in a totally different way, and people that frankly, like, we're not necessarily reaching through Facebook and Instagram, and they're not necessarily, I think we put a lot of eggs in the digital basket sometimes. But are there any other kind of non-traditional, or even what some people like would call old school kind of marketing efforts, whether it's flyering or things like that you guys are doing to try to reach a wider audience locally?
Yeah, with animal services, I mean, we have people that are on the ground out in the community talking to residents and everyone. So one of the first things that our officers did before we actually took on the contract was they would take lost pet flyers of stray pets that were at our shelter that we didn't have an owner, and they went out in the community and handed out flyers in English and Spanish to people and said, has anybody seen this dog? It's at the shelter if you know the owner. We were able to reunite a couple of animals as a result. And then at the same time, they handed out dog food. They handed out candy to kids and adults, because adults need candy too.
Yes.
And just said, we're animal services. We're here to help. Here's all of our programs. Here's the way that we're doing it. So that's actually just going door to door and talking to folks and letting them know what all we're doing. So I think that's a little bit of a non-traditional approach.
Totally.
So Katie, can you think of other things?
I was going to go towards the animal services.
Mm-hmm.
It's so new to us, and so at the forefront of our organization right now that it's hard not to think about that department, because it's so exciting. It really is.
Yeah, that kind of grassroots outreach, I think, definitely gets me the most excited for really feeling an impact of like you know that people are hearing about you and experiencing your organization in a brand new way in those ways, where I think sometimes it's especially in the pandemic, like we're doing so much like this way, right? Like through screens and things like that. And I think it gets really hard sometimes to zero in on impact if you're not also having those other, you know, moments and experiences of seeing real people and animals who are being impacted. So it's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, that's pretty much all the questions I have. That was so interesting, and I'm so grateful and just really in awe of everything that you guys are doing, and I can't thank you enough.
Yeah,
Thank
of
you for
course.
having us.
Thank you for doing this and consistently providing amazing resources to all of us in the animal welfare industry, and just really appreciate the work you do.
Oh, you're too kind. All right, guys, have a great day.